We are rolling? You feeling ready?
Yeah.
You feeling ready, sir?
Ready as I'm gonna get. So I'm gonna introduce myself a little bit in the way that we would as Indigenous people. Tanshi, Ani, Bojo, Kwe Kwe, Kinu Kinu Inene Indigenous, Mont Tremblant, Donjnaba, Manitoba, and Donjnabu. My name is Jeff Sear. My traditional name is Eagle Man Leading. I live in Mont Tremblant, Quebec, where I was born and raised. My people are the Métis people. In southern Manitoba, the White Horse Plains, which is known as the Buffalo Hunt Staging Grounds. I am the CEO, co-founder, and managing partner of Raven Indigenous Capital Partners and the Raven Indigenous Impact Foundation. I worked in communities for the last 25 years with my people, and what I want to see is change. I want to see people be able to live improved, healthy, safe lives in the way that they want to see that life lived, not in some sort of Western or normative ideal, but in the way that we would live it in our culture. Unfortunately, we have a system that was built 500-600 years ago, a financial system, and it clearly hasn't changed to keep up with the times. If you can build something flexible, creative, that really gets at an equity-deserving group like Indigenous people globally, you can show a new trend line about how things can be done differently. And it's critical because capital gaps have been missing. Since the start of colonization, what you had is essentially the removal of culture, the removal of people from lands, and a kind of forced assimilation of Indigenous people. It's not new history, but the impacts of that is that capital, social finance and actual flexible patient capital inside our communities is nearly absent. And what we face is a racist, sometimes subtly, sometimes not so subtly racist financial system. It's my firm belief and understanding working in this space now that you need to build new institutions led by Indigenous people in order to get the change that's required at the end of the day. So building a bank that's led, organized, run by Indigenous people, you get innovation out the other side, and you get a different way of doing business, which I think what we all want at the end of the day.
My name is Dawson Hermany Horses. I'm a managing director at Wells Fargo, and I'm the head of Native American banking. Capital can make a difference in the lives of Indigenous people when the providers of that capital sit down with Indigenous people and talk to them about what they need. Finance has existed for a long time, but it hasn't been proximate to Indigenous communities. Right? So many of the problems today aren't just capital problems. History is never past, right? It's always present. Changing the lives of people in a community, providing better access to healthcare, improving schools and forums for learning for students, giving people access to housing, right? These kind of mundane and fundamental things that I think a lot of us take for granted and so many communities are lacking, right? And so when I think about kind of making an impact, those are the things I think about, right? Just improving the daily lives of people who need help.
What does creating a positive impact mean? I think everybody defines that differently. It's one of the issues around impact investing and impact measurement. To me, you need to see a demonstrable change in the lives of people. So you need to look at someone and say, this capital went there, it changed the life in this way. And you should be able to measure it. It shouldn't be esoteric in some sense. It is more than providing a job for somebody, although sometimes providing a job is a great thing. But almost all investment claims to provide a job to create more jobs. What you really want to see is long-term sustainable change. And that's impact. If you can look across the street and you see someone who never had power before now has power. If you get someone who didn't have access to healthcare now has access to healthcare. If you see your friends' children graduating and going through university and coming out the other side with some sort of professional degree when that was out of reach a decade ago, this is real impact on the ground as things that are tangible and that you can touch and feel. And what we've done is created an organization to provide that capital in new and innovative ways. And we are the only ones doing that in North America, as it turns out, potentially around the globe. We didn't know that when we started, but this is the case today. And that start really got going actually after attending the Oxford Social Finance Program. There are very few places around the world to learn about how to actually apply and build social finance instruments. And Oxford, when I looked at what was available, Oxford offers the most in-depth, with the greatest amount of leaders who are actually applying this in this space. It's also globally recognized, Oxford, and I think that helps in situations, especially for equity-deserving groups, where you need to be recognized in order to access capital. Generally, in order to access systems where you don't really have the opportunity to get access to it otherwise. I think the Oxford brand, on top of just a real first-rate program, offers both of those things to students.
There aren't a lot of schools who are interested in Indigenous issues. There aren't a lot of schools who have elevated Indigenous issues within sort of their curriculum. And so to be here, to be able to talk about these issues, I approach this work from a traditional finance perspective, but I'm hoping that, I'll learn about, new and creative ways that will hopefully improve the work I do and help me make a bigger impact, right? Because in traditional finance, we're not always able to kind of provide the solutions that communities need, but my hope is that with the tools that I'll learn in a course like this, I'll be able to offer more solutions.